Hello, my name is Lisa Jimenez. I'm the creator and founder of the She Is Me conference. I'm also the founder of Creative Life Happy Soul. And today we're going to talk about transformational creativity, why I do what I do, and how you can create, transform, and emerge into your best life. So, how did I change my life from being stuck in an addiction filled home, dealing with domestic violence, and feeling like I was invisible, broken, and powerless, to a creator, an entrepreneur, and a healer thriving in a safe, loving relationship and having a beautiful life that I never dreamed was possible? Well, my story's not an easy one, but I'll tell you a little bit about it to show you that no matter what is happening around you, you can raise your vibration, tune into happiness, and step into your power. It takes courage, it takes work, but you've done hard things. And some of the biggest fears that we have was because of things that we have told ourselves. But what if you could turn those messages into positive ones? And those negative tapes that play round and round and round in your head get replaced with positive messages by just because, like, they just now no longer are you thinking negative things, you're only thinking positive things. Wouldn't that be great? But what if you could stop the noise altogether? Okay, so buckle up because this ride is going to get a little bumpy. Okay. So I had a childhood in an alcoholic household, and I grew up sick and I didn't even know it. It was normal. It was normal. Lots of houses on our street were like that. It was the 70s, and there was a lot of using and abusing going on. So, I always felt alone and I felt unloved. And I felt different because I felt like I didn't belong there. I was always escaping into art or singing or books or anything I could do in those creative outlets because that's where I was safe. Not only was I safe, but I was strong and I was great. I was great. I could sing in the mirror and give you a concert and say thank you, good night, and have the crowd stand up, and I was phenomenal when I was escaping. So, unfortunately, growing up for many, many years in this world of addiction and dysfunction, I carried on the family tradition, and I married not one, but two alcoholics who thought that abuse was the way that they could assume control, feel powerful, and express themselves and get me to listen. So when they say you marry someone like your dad, well, I did. I was a good little Latina. According to the religion that I was raised with, you cannot get divorced or you will be shunned. You must forgive those who trespass against you. And I was taught to obey. I was taught to respect adults no matter what. I was taught not to speak unless I was spoken to. I was taught to be seen and not heard. But more importantly, I was taught to take it and not complain and to never, ever show my emotions. Oh, you could laugh and you could smile, but the fact that in fact, smiling and laughing was required. It was required. Everything was a joke. Everything was a joke, no matter how terrible it was. But don't you cry and don't you get mad. That was just not allowed. It was what I learned and it was what I was taught. And it was what those who came before me were taught. And it was handed down generation by generation. So when you hear talk about generational trauma, this is exactly what we're referring to. And when we speak of breaking the generational trauma or curse, this is what we're talking about, is finding our way, finding our voice, finding our power, and stopping the madness. I spent many, many years breaking those generational gifts, as I call them. But I spent many years on that road to self-fulfillment. But we'll get to that. I was born with this positive disposition, I'm usually a positive person. I can always see the positive in everything, and I could always get to a high vibration even when I didn't even know what that was. But I really must have grabbed that one attribute on my way into the physical and said, I think I'm going to need this, like my fire extinguisher. But years later, after I was an adult and I was meeting with a therapist, she asked me, how did you stay so positive through this? How do you stay so positive all the time? Because every time she saw me, she's like, you're always so positive. But I remembered something that I used to say to myself since I was a little kid, since I could remember. I used to say, well, tomorrow's another day. And I would go to bed at night, put my head on the pillow, no matter how terrible it was. And I would say, you know what? Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is a new start. Tomorrow, everything could change. Tomorrow is another day. I get a blank can or something. It could always be worse. So I was grateful for the littlest things when I didn't even know that gratitude was the highest vibration. So my story is a complicated one, and it's a lot to share in 30 minutes. So I'll tell you some of the highlights, okay? So when I was 6, I was left in charge of my 3 younger sisters. My mom worked nights to escape my drunken, abusive father, and I was left home to care for my sisters with my father and all of his friends who were drinking and partying every single night. At 9, my father broke my mother's neck in a drunken rage because he thought she was cheating on him. She laid in a hospital bed for about a year in this steel contraption that was like drilled into her jaw and drilled into her collarbones and in a hospital bed in our living room. And I became her nurse, but also my father's bartender. I started working at 12 because my parents couldn't pay the bills. My summer work and babysitting money helped pay the rent and the bills and supply my dad's addiction for many, many years. You see, Dad loved to entertain everyone and anyone he could with his generosity, aka the family bank account. And we moved 7 times before I was in the 4th grade, mostly because we were escaping from something that he had done or the family had done. I don't know. It was a crazy time. In my teenage years, I worked 2 jobs. I played softball, and I did everything I could to keep busy so I wouldn't have to deal with all of the crap that was going on in my house. I learned to have thick skin, let nothing get to me, figure things out on my own, support myself financially, and build this amazing wall around me. Nothing could penetrate it. In fact, I didn't cry, not even once, for 14 years. I read, I created art, I played music, and I filled my mind with everything I could so I wouldn't have to succumb to the trauma. At my 21st birthday party, my dad was so happy that he could finally have a drinking partner that he challenged me to a drinking contest. He passed out at 2 a.m., and I remember because I was determined to beat him. I had to win at something, and I wanted to make him proud. I don't know when I passed out, but that night I was raped. 6 weeks later, I discovered I was pregnant, and I had no idea how it happened or who it was. A few days after that, I had an abortion. I told no one. A few years later, I got married, and 2 days after the church wedding, my husband punched me in the face for opening a wedding gift while he was in the bathroom. 2.5 years later and 7 broken bones, I finally got the courage to leave. He stalked me and he threatened me until he found another victim, and then just like that, he disappeared. I was finally free from him, but I was petrified. I lived my life in fear. I moved far away, and I was so scared every single day, but I had absolutely no idea who I was, what I wanted, or even why I was so scared of everything. I felt inadequate, powerless, and insignificant. But what I wanted most was to feel that excitement for life, to be loved for who I was, and to feel powerful. About a year later, without doing any work on myself, remember, I'm just walking around in fear. I'm just existing. I wasn't actually doing anything. I was doing everything I could to take my mind off of the past, and I was just stuck. And so about a year later, without doing any work on myself, I met another man, and he love bombed me good. I didn't know that he was an alcoholic narcissist, but I remember one moment very, very early in the relationship where I can actually pinpoint the exact time that I handed him my power on a silver platter. 17 years later, I was running for my life, my young daughter in tow, broken and bleeding because he had spent the last 2 hours trying to kill me. His alcohol and drug addiction ruled our lives, poisoned our lives, and finally almost ended mine. As they hauled him off to jail, I remember taking the deepest breath of my life. This is when I finally swelled up with power. I was pissed. Here I was, left again, broken and powerless. Why did this keep happening to me? I had to get to the bottom of this. And the funny thing is I didn't blame anybody else. I only blamed myself. I beat myself up every day. Why, Lisa? Why are you letting this happen to you? Why are you getting into these situations? Why does this keep happening to you? What's wrong with you that all you're getting is this? Well, that's not the way to talk to yourself, obviously. But I think part of it was that because no one really knew what was happening with me. No one knew what was happening in my home. I hid everything. Everything I had learned growing up was secrecy. Everything, hide it, don't show it. Nobody wants to see it. Just smile and be happy. And everybody loves you when you're smiling and happy. So when I looked at my life and what other people saw, I was successful. I had a husband, 2 kids, successful job, a $1 million home, a boat, all the toys, a dog, everything you could want inside this beautiful package. But inside that package was a shitstorm. No one knew how every moment of my life I lived in fear. Fear of being invisible, fear of never being able to do anything right, fear of being useless, fear of being hurt physically and mentally, fear of being found out, fear of failing again, and fear of failing my children most of all. This is when I started my path to my own spiritual awakening. You see, I was lucky enough to have an amazing teacher in my life that I'd met years before and who had been really teaching me so much. And I think I was just storing it away and not really paying attention. But she was amazing. And she taught me about the laws of the universe. And she taught me how to develop the gifts that I was born with, but I never practiced because I was too scared. I was scared of my own power because whenever I exerted my power, everyone in my life freaked out. So I really thought, well, I better put that away because the actual response I got from everybody just scared me. Like, why is this not okay? Like, this is something bad. So I better not show it. When in reality, all it was my true self coming out, my powerful self, me stepping into my power, and nobody wanted me to do that. Why? Because it scared them. My power scared them, but I didn't know. I was scared of loving myself because I didn't know how. People would say, "Oh, self-love." And I would say, "Wow, I don't even know what self-love is." I didn't even know if I could. I had been taught that I was less than, and I was not worthy of anything good. So I had to find out who I was because I didn't even know who I was. And if you ask anybody else, they would say, "Oh, sure, she's this marketing guru and she's a mom and she's this and she's that." But inside I didn't know who I was. I was just being those things because I had to. You see, I spent my entire life in this codependent state where I'd been the caretaker of everyone, and my identity was tied to taking care of everyone and solving everyone's problems. And I'd pretty much solve your problem whether you asked for it or not, because I'm really good at it for, 40 plus years of practicing my craft, right? But who was I? I had a vision of what I wanted, but it wasn't clear. And at the time, I just wanted to be free. But as I started discovering who I was and what I really wanted, then I figured, like, I thought to myself, how was I ever going to get there? You know? And I had heard of quieting down and of meditation, but I thought, that's really weird hippie stuff. And I don't really smoke pot. So I didn't really fit into the hippie stuff. Crazy thoughts, right? All of the enlightened masters teach the art of going within to unlock the secrets of yourself. But if you're like me, you can't sit still for 10 minutes. But I had nowhere else to go but within. I had been isolated, and the friends that I did have, I was scared to tell them everything. My family wasn't understanding because they were all still in their sickness, and I received messages from them like, just get over it, or stop whining. So luckily, when I was ready, I was shown the way. I asked, and the universe delivered. I was taught that I could stop those thoughts in my mind, and I learned to align my thoughts with the life that I wanted. And just so you know, it took me years to learn how to meditate. The first time I actually did it, or I should say, how to meditate in the way that it's taught, sitting, focusing, quieting down. And the first time I did it, I could not believe it. I literally jumped up and ran all the way to a friend's house to tell her all about my experience. As soon as that happened, I started trying to meditate whenever I could because it was truly amazing. But I still had a problem sitting still, and it really, in my world, took too much time. Sitting still for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever they wanted me to do was it couldn't happen. I had kids, I had soccer, I had work, I had dogs, I didn't have time to do that. So as soon as I realized, well, as soon as I want to say learned, but I was really reminded because I already knew this. As soon as I was reminded that I could meditate while I was walking, while I was creating art, while I was cooking, while I was listening to my favorite music, then the light bulb went on. I had been doing this my whole life. Remember that I told you I would escape into these things when I was a kid? I was actually meditating and I wasn't even a hippie. So in my healing, I started asking myself these questions. What is it that you want, Lisa? What makes you light up? What are you really good at? What makes you smile? I dove into learning everything I could about my gifts. I learned the art of saying no. I read everything I could. I listened to everything I could. I found teachers and artists and mystics and anyone I could just to learn more. About 3 years later, all of that trauma that I'd shoved down and never confronted manifested in the physical. I was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus because in all of this learning and all of this excitement and these 3 years of just going, all of a sudden I was just stopped dead in my tracks. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't stay awake for more than 2 hours. I had a migraine for 3 months. I mean, serious ice packs on my head while I was in meetings every day. Migraine. I went to multiple doctors, month after month after month. I finally was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, and it eventually evolved into fibromyalgia. I learned through many teachers that when your emotions aren't dealt with, any emotional pain or trauma not dealt with will always manifest in the physical. So I took everything that I learned about energy and how to change the energy and how to tap into the energy and spent every waking moment that I could of every day thinking about energy and how everything is energy. I learned about the emotional scale, how I could actually process my emotions so that I could respond instead of react. I learned that when I use my right brain to create, I raise my vibration, I heal my body, I fill with joy, and I manifest everything that I ever wanted. I was able to study the effects of positive energy and manifestation and create a new full life of love, health, and happiness. Now the past is behind me. I live in the moment, right now, right now, right now. I've learned to respond and not react. I've learned to say no. I've learned to have boundaries. And I've learned not to give my energy to anything that doesn't align with me. Sounds great, right? Well, yes, there are some great things about this, but some things also happen that I didn't expect. Once you step into your power, there will be someone, something, lots of things that don't resonate with your positive vibrations. They will try to stop you. They will approach you as they knew you, as you were when they could manipulate you. Whether it be friends or family, it doesn't matter. They will come to you as you were when they had power over you. And those that you don't resonate with anymore will fall away, and that's okay. I've separated myself from many people, friends and family, that no longer fit into my life. And I'll tell you what, I've never been happier. As with anything, when you realize things that no longer resonate, or when you realize that the things that no longer resonate, you have to leave your bubble. When they do, when you get rid of things, then you make room for more things, new things, wonderful things that match your new vibration. With all of this self discovery, I also realized that I had a few gifts that I had been ignoring. I was a gifted artist, but I was never appreciative of my gift because I sat in judgment of myself and I had to get past that. And I did. I was great at events. So I created the Mariposa Group and became a consultant. I created events, helped other companies create their vision, but that just wasn't enough. I was also great at motivating and teaching, and I wanted to keep walking down that path of self discovery. I wanted to, I'd figured out what I really wanted. I retired from my 30-year high tech career and I pursued my dreams, and I was all in, and there was no turning back. And at this time, I realized a few things. I realized that I used to feel alone, like I was a mutant. I and I didn't even know myself. I had friends, but no one knew the real me. I wanted to belong to something. I wanted to feel like I was like everybody else, but I knew I wasn't. And once I found out that I had the gifts, or I'd been given these gifts, so that I could teach others, to help others shine their own light, I felt like I won the lottery. I was I was just like jumping around doing a dance, and from that day forward, it's all I could think about. I did everything I could to develop and uncover my gifts. I had to go through a process, though. I had to go through this transformation. Another transformation. I became an art therapist. I became a Reiki master. I got certified in about 1,000 things just to make sure I wasn't missing out on anything. But it all comes down to this: energy and vibration, and to the connection with source, alignment. I eventually created my own modality called Transformational Creativity, and I teach it to others at events and workshops, and I work with women one on one. Transformational creativity is a process in which you raise your vibration by practicing mindfulness, through a creative process. The result? You find your power, your truth, and you find yourself again. It's not easy because you have to do the work, but it's fun, and it was my path to true personal freedom. Healing naturally occurs when we're engaged in states of self expression, and creating in this way reduces stress, increases energy, awakens awareness, opens up the energy flow, and allows you to receive. It's the fastest and easiest way to get into alignment. It's all about alignment, folks. Energy is everything. Every step I've taken, everything I've created and continue to create is focused on one thing: freedom. It's my mission to help women uncover their gifts, believe in themselves, unlearn those generational messages that don't serve them anymore, and live the life they dream of. No apologies and no excuses. So let me ask you, do you know what you really want? It doesn't matter if you do or you don't know. You can create a vision of your new life and change from the inside out, just like I did. You can discover the happy life you want while creating from the heart. It's a journey within, it's a journey back to self. It's a descent. And it's not the self that you were before the trauma, because that person doesn't exist anymore. You're stronger and you're wiser. It's a journey to the self that you're craving to find every single day, that woman who knows her power. I have and will continue to strive to create safe spaces for women to create, to express themselves, and to show up as their true selves with no room for shame or judgment. Shame and judgment are taught, and I have no space for them on my ride. I'll leave you with this quote from Mary Oliver. The most regretful people on earth are those who felt the call to creative work, who felt their own creative power restive and uprising, and gave to it neither power nor time. Every moment is a miracle. Every negative has a positive, and every moment is a catalyst for change. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for joining me at the She Is Me conference. The She Is Me conference was created for this exact reason. Every woman has a story. Every woman has the courage to tell it. Every woman has the power to help another woman change her life, to step into her power, and to be who she really is. That's what we're all about here. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you soon.